to Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today we're honored and we have the great pleasure to have with us a Kansas author, historian, and speaker named Rod Beemer. And today we're going to be talking about several really great things. One about the weather in Kansas, everybody talks about the weather, and about George Armstrong Custer. Come on back. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. Around Kansas, brought to you by Tarwater Farm and Home. Come on by, we'll treat you like family. As you know, Around Kansas is about people, places, and things in Kansas, and of course, today we have people. We are pleased to have with us a Kansas author, Rod Beemer. Rod, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to throw a real curve at you here now. Beemer is a name that I'm familiar with. I think you are too. Brace Beemer was the actor that played the Lone Ranger. Are you related in any way?
No, but I wish I was.
Aha,
He was one of my heroes
right.
growing up.
Good. And the reason I ask that silly question is because Mr. Beemer writes about the West. And today we're going to talk about a book that he wrote some years ago, but it's about the, what do we say here? The deadliest woman in the West. Tell us about this book.
Well, it's not about my wife or your wife, and I've had women get really upset about that. They thought it was, derogatory. But it came about at the coffee group that I attended for years and years, still do. We've lost some members, but how many whites were killed by Indians in the settlement of the West? And it varied greatly in their estimation, and I went on my merry way and got to thinking, that wasn't the biggest threat to the settlers coming in to settle the prairies and plains. It was actually Mother Nature. So I then began to collect information and do research on that, and ended up in a book.
Okay. Well, it says it's the weather in the prairie between 1800 and 1900.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, are there particular stories, or in other words, what is the breakdown of that? How do you?
Well, the reason, of course, the primary settlement of the West happened in the 19th century, but it was kind of bookend 1811 and 12 was the New Madrid earthquake. That's the strongest earthquake we've had in North America. And it happened over on the Mississippi River, kind of down by the Boot Hill. And it woke up President Madison and Dolly in the White House. It was strong enough to be felt in the Rocky Mountains. It was felt in Canada. It was felt in the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
And of course, we didn't have seismographs at that time, but they have studied that. And with the possible exception of the earthquake in Alaska, what was that was that the 80s? I've forgotten now, but it's the strongest earthquake we've had in the United States that we know of, that we've kept records of.
Okay. Now, you alluded to deaths during the 1800s, during the settlement of the West. So tell us a little bit more then about the weather and how many people it took with them.
Well, if you're talking about our deadliest, if you're talking body counts, which that's kind of hard, but the Galveston hurricane that occurred in 1900, it was the deadliest natural disaster that we have record of. Now, what happened, 2,000 years ago, we don't know, but the governor of Texas estimated that there were probably around 15,000 deaths from the Galveston hurricane.
Wow.
And I think they set the official death count at somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000. But it was, Galveston Island was the Ellis Island of the West. A lot of immigrants came into Galveston, and because of the weather and how nice it was, they could come and stay on the beach, they could walk inland, and nobody had a precise record of how many people were down there when that hurricane hit.
When we come back, we're going to talk about his favorite character, General George Armstrong Custer.
Welcome to the Willie Sells Amphitheater in historic Topeka Cemetery. Isn't this spot just made for a show? Well, September 6th and 7th, that's exactly what you're going to get. On September 6th, we're going to have the screening of The Road to Valhalla, the Civil War documentary from director Ken Spurgeon and Lone Chimney Films. On September 7th, we're going to have music in the cemetery. We're going to have traditional, bluegrass, and blues, and you're going to love it. Now find us on Facebook to get all the details. The Saturday night event, there is a $5 admission unless you're friends of the cemetery, and then you get in free. On Sunday, everything is free. Saturday night, we'll have reenactors on hand. Sunday, it's all about honoring the life of Arthur Capper. And he is, of course, a permanent resident here at Topeka Cemetery. We're so proud of him. Look forward to seeing you then.
This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. Today we're speaking with Rod Beemer, who is an author, lecturer, historian, and you're a native of Bennington, Kansas. Is that correct?
Not really. I'm
okay.
I'm a native of Abilene. I grew up about 9 miles south of Abilene on a grain and livestock farm there.
Okay. But now you live in Bennington.
I live in Bennington.
Okay,
now.
I stand corrected. Okay, before we went to break, we talked about General George Armstrong Custer, and he spent a lot of time in Kansas, and you know a bit about that. Now, we all know about the Little Bighorn, but let's hear some other things about General George when he was in Kansas.
Yeah, he spent quite a bit of time in Kansas. He owned property here in Topeka, had a house in Topeka here, and he had a house or some property down around Council Grove. We don't think he spent very much time at either location, but he did own those properties. He spent, of course, time at Fort Riley and Fort Leavenworth, and then campaigned in the West during the 1860s. The 7th Cavalry was brought online, so to speak, in 1868 and is stationed at Fort Riley. And because of the Indian troubles west of Fort Riley, the 7th was pressed into service almost immediately. And then he went on the Hancock campaign, was his first introduction to Plains Indian warfare, which didn't work out too well for him. And I did an article that was published in the Chronicles of Oklahoma, I believe it was December last year, on what I thought was his finest hour when he went down into the Texas Panhandle and rescued 2 women that were captured here in Kansas, one of them around Delphus and one of them up around Concordia. And they were captured, traded amongst the tribes, ended up down on the Sweetwater in the Texas Panhandle, and Custer rescued them without firing a shot. And I think that was Custer's finest hour. He was kind of like Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson, one of his quotes was, he said, "I go from brilliant to stupid rather quickly, and nothing in between." And that's kind of where Custer was. You know, he was not the idiot that a lot of people portray him as. He was not as great as a lot of people portray him. He was a human being with a lot of faults and a lot of good qualities.
And a lot of good press coverage.
Tremendous amount of press coverage, and he was a genuine hero in a Civil War. You can't take that away from him. He did quite well. He didn't do as good on Western campaigns. Actually, he was only involved in 4 Indian campaigns where he actually met Indians and exchanged any kind of hostilities with them. I have a book finished. If anybody wants to publish a book on Custer, I have one finished. I haven't found a home for it yet, but I have accounted for every almost day of his life out here in the West. And I can tell you where he was and when he was there and how much time he spent in the West. He actually didn't spend a lot of time here. He loved New York City. He loved to be anywhere but out here, it seemed like, although he said many times how much he loved the West, and his wife Libby, they just loved the West, but as soon as he was gone, she moved to New York City and never came west again. So I'm not down on the Custers, I'm just trying to hear the facts.
When we come back, I'm going to ask you a question about Custer's wife, so we'll be back.
Hey folks, it's Dr. Dan from Doc Talk and Ag AM in Kansas, and that's my farm. Be sure to stop in and join us at the Kansas State Fair. We're going to be down there, we're going to be walking around, we're going to be in the birthing center. Join us, come say hi, we can't wait to see you.
Now another gardening tip with Annette Jackson.
Now is the best time of the year to fertilize your lawns. The best product for our area is Fertilome Lawn Food Plus Iron. With its blend of fast and slower release nitrogen and a complete formula of minor nutrients, Fertilome Lawn Food Plus Iron provides your lawn with nutrients for the darkest green lawn in your neighborhood.
Bring in a soil sample from your lawn for a free pH test. Get your soil recommendations from the experts at Jackson's.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need. Around Kansas, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com. We're back with Rod Beemer, historian, author, and speaker. And of course, today we're talking about, well, a couple of things. The weather on the plains in the 1800s through 1900, and about George Armstrong Custer. Now, before we went to the break, you had mentioned something, and that is that he wasn't at home much. And most of the Western heroes, as we know them, weren't home much. And it might be an interesting thing. I may be planning another book with you. Oh, what did their wives do while they were gone?
Well, They basically tried, some of the Army wives tried to follow their husbands. Some of them did not. There were not accommodations when they were in, the 7th was sent to the southern states to help with, after the Civil War, to maintain peace down there. They were basically part of a peace force. And of course, Libby, George's wife, went with him down there, and from there they were sent to Fort Abraham Lincoln, well, which actually Fort Rice, and then Abraham Lincoln. But there, she followed him all the way, rode horseback, rode no steamboats. She was a very devoted wife. But when they got to Fort Rice, there were not any accommodations for any of the wives, so they had to go back home, where home for Libby was Monroe, Michigan. That's where she had grown up. Her parents were gone, and she got the family home there, and that was kind of a home for them. But of course, when they were on campaign, she would be, they spent time out around Fort Hays, lived in tents out there, and she would follow him wherever she could.
Sounds like an interesting life.
And a little note that maybe all Custer people would know this, but when he was on campaign in Indian country, he had ordered his staff that if they should be attacked by Indians and it was going badly, that they were to shoot his wife.
Oh my, okay.
Well, and save the last bullet for yourself.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, you can take either side of the Indian soldier controversy, Indian white, and there were atrocities on both sides. But for a white woman to get captured by the Indians during that warfare time, it really wasn't a good picture in a lot of cases. So just go ahead and shoot them. And that was an order he had given his officers.
Now, another question too, did Custer really have a band follow him into each of the campaigns?
Yes, he did have a band with him. When he went down on the winter campaign of 1868, he had a band go with him, and when they went to attack Black Kettle's village, it was probably sub-zero if I remember right, and they were to strike up the band. Well, the instruments froze up, so they got a few notes out, and then the instruments froze up. But yes, he loved that band. Gary Owen was his favorite song that they played, his marching battle song. But he did have a band that went with him almost every place.
We'll be back.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We're having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This is the fast track to more jobs and America's energy independence. Advanced performance is here now. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Around Kansas, brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
We're back, and again, we are speaking with author, historian, speaker, and all-around interesting guy, Rod Beemer, who is a Kansan and has a great deal of interest in, of course, General George Armstrong Custer, weather on the plains, and also you've done a lot of stories, articles, and I believe books about farm equipment. So kind of go with that. And is this farm equipment that's used everywhere, or it started in Kansas, or what?
Well, it's kind of a little subculture that people may not be aware of yet, although it's worldwide, actually. I grew up on a farm south of Abilene, and when I was a photographer friend, had a chance to do some books on tractor collecting, and he didn't like to do the research. I like to research and do the writing, so we teamed up. But I thought, okay, I grew up on a farm and I drove, John Deere tractors, case tractors, and that I knew about tractors. Well, I didn't know about tractor collecting, that's for sure. And these people have collected the old tractors, and some of them have collections that are in excess of $1 million. And they haul them all over the world. They've gone to Russia to buy them and bring them back. There's a big, a friend that I interviewed was buying tractors in France, bringing them back because they had some very rare tractors over there. So when you get to talking tractor collecting, the best thing you can do, unless you're an expert, is just sit and listen because you'll get over your head in a big hurry. And so I did a lot of sitting and listening to these people who had, well, there was the gentleman here in Topeka that had one of the finest John Deere collections that I ever saw. And I've seen, we were from the Dakotas down to a lot of collections, and he had a fine collection, and he could tell you about every one. They were all restored. Every decal was exactly where it should be. And they take them apart and put them back together.
Okay. Well, now, if somebody wanted to wanted to buy some of your books and stories, how might they do that?
Well, you could go to a website, rodbeemer.com, or you could go to Amazon. And I think most of the books are still available on Amazon. Some of them have kind of gotten to where they're a little pricey for used because there's just not too much you can find new about these tractors. They've just been researched. They go back to the archives, and here is a high crop that only 6 of them were made. Where were they shipped? And that's the way the collectors do it, and then they will run them down and try to find them because they're valuable.
Okay. Now, another question too is you're working on a book at the current time. Is it going to be a novel, nonfiction?
Well, you mentioned a novel that's an e-book on Amazon. I have another novel that's ready to go as soon as we can get it up as an e-book. And right now I'm researching a book on Kansas bank robberies.
Ah.
And hopefully get that done and get it out there.
Great. All right. Well, again, thank you, Mr. Beemer, and it's been an honor and a pleasure, and we'll have you back on again when your next book comes out.
I hope that's a promise.
Okay. All right. And that's it for today on Around Kansas. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress. Powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome to Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream. We're the best part of Dorothy's